Okay, today we're going to look at creating a table or some of the basics and starting points for using Fusion 360. So the table we're going to create today, if I just pull up a picture of it, is one that's similar looking to this. So I'm just going to make it a little bit different and using a 15mm plywood, and we'll just make it as we go. So first thing you need to do is open your Fusion 360. And when you open your Fusion 360 for the first time, you may have a screen that looks something similar to this. What we want to do is open the waffle menu up here in the top left-hand corner, which will pull out this side project. And what you want to do is create a new folder or a new project. Okay? So once you create a new project, because we're working in Year 9 construction, I want you to call it Year 9 construction, similar to this one, and then you'll open that up. And inside that, you could create a new folder called Construction Stool, or you can just come over to the workspace and start to create your project. Once you're in this folder, whatever you create or design in this workspace then will be saved in this Year 9 construction folder. If you want to go back to your other folders or back to the start, you would just hit the home screen that would take you back to the home. So we're going to work in the Year 9 construction space. And I want you to create a new project, and we're going to start to work over here. You could close this space here now if you wanted to, which will then give you a full screen to work in. First thing you want to know about Fusion 360 is it's basically making 2D shapes. So you'll do 2D sketches, they're called, so completing a sketch on a 2D surface, and then you will extrude those surfaces to make them three-dimensional. So for most projects, you're going to start with a sketch, and the sketch tool is this one in the top left-hand corner with the little green plus sign. So clicking on that sketch tool, and what it's going to do is it's going to throw up your X, Y, and Z axes. Okay, so we're working on a three-dimensional plane, and the first sketch that we're going to complete today is going to be on this Y axis, on this one between the blue and the green planes. So clicking on that axis, and you can see now it's gone to a two-dimensional shape on the right-hand side here, and we're completing a sketch now between the X and Y axes. If I want to go back to the three-dimensional image, I can hit this home, and it would take me back to a three-dimensional, looking at something 3D. But clicking on the right-hand side of this box up here, so this box cube in the top right-hand corner, is a simple way to navigate around your screen. I also find it heaps easier to use a mouse if you have one. So just using a mouse, you can zoom in and out with the scroll wheel. You can hold the scroll wheel to pan, clicking on the scroll wheel to pan, or holding shift and clicking on the scroll wheel will allow you to orbit. And that's some of the simple features of Fusion 360 to start with. So the first thing we want to do is create a sketch on a surface. So we're just going to create a rectangle sketch here, and you can see the sketch palette is open on the side. If I click on this rectangle, or I press R for rectangle, it will select the rectangle tool. And I can then draw three different types of rectangle, and you can see over here on the sketch palette for rectangle, I have a few options here I can choose from. I find one of the best rectangles to draw is a center point rectangle. So if I just click on a center point rectangle here, and I click and drag out, you can see I drag out a rectangle. It's really important here that I get my sizes correctly. So I'm just going to draw a 450mm tab 450 rectangle. Clicking enter, you can see it will sketch me a 450 by 450 rectangle. The next thing I want to do is extrude that rectangle to be the size of the thickness of the timber that I'm going to use. So once I've got 450 by 450 rectangle, I'm just going to hit E for extrude. What I like to do here is actually come up here to this home symbol in the top right hand corner, and it'll put me on a three-dimensional shape. And you can see here that I've got one profile selected, which is the rectangle that I've drawn, and I can start to extrude that out. And you can see here in distance, I can either extrude it to a positive or negative value. I want to make my extrusion 15 millimeters. So I'm just going to type in 15 and hit enter because that's the thickness of my material. So we've got a 450 by 450 piece of timber at 15 millimeters thick. The other thing I can see too is down here in my timeline, I can see that I've done a sketch and an extrusion, and I can drag that timeline back and forth in time. So the more things that as I start to complete down here, this timeline will get bigger and bigger. I can also click down here and right click down here and edit the sketch, which would take me back to my initial sketch. And anything I did back in this timeline would change my future plan as it went on. So for example, if I continued to make my shape and then went to the workshop to find that I was out of 15 millimeter ply, but I've got heaps of 19 millimeters, I could go back and edit this extrusion and make that extrusion 19 millimeters, which would then change the whole entire job that I'm working on. So it's quite intuitive that you can go back in time and make changes, and it will bring it forward into the future. What we're going to do is just click OK once we've done that extrusion, and then it's a good practice to save your works. So saving it, we're just going to call this the stool project and press save. And that's your first lesson for Year 9 construction.